The short answer is Manhattan skyscrapers aren't built for real people anymore. Let's get into it. Here's Billionaires Row. You've probably seen these buildings on social media and beautiful photos all over the internet. They're a stretch of buildings in New York City that only the world's richest people can afford, the one percenters can afford. Here in New York City, Billionaires Row has sparked a revolution in ultra-slender skyscrapers lately. These towers are now a breathtaking show of riches, status, and engineering, all in innovations at the same time. But they also feel a little hollow. How did it happen? You might be wondering. They're empty? Why do they still exist with so many of the flats being vacant? What does it all mean for the construction industry, the city itself, and the world of wealth? Good questions. In Midtown Manhattan, one of the earliest skyscrapers was constructed. At the time, it was the highest skyscraper in New York. That was the goal. And it's gone on and on to put one up even higher. And another one after that, even higher. But why is this? For years, skyscrapers have been rising taller and thinner. The incredible thin residential tower, however, is completely a new kind of skyscraper that has emerged as a result of Billionaires Row. You see, space is a premium in Manhattan, so if you want to build big, you have to build up. Developers on Billionaires Row spent years collecting the air rights, which is a thing, for the properties all around their lots in order to build one of these little sites that they had secured with structures tall enough to provide vistas of Central Park. In order to increase the height of their property and ensure that the neighboring buildings couldn't obscure their newly constructed property views of Central Park, they combined those additional air rights. It resembles putting in the final pieces of a pricey puzzle together. In fact, there is so much money involved that it is assisting in the transformation of housing from its most fundamental purpose of providing shelter into a successful investment plan. And that's the real core of it. To be clear, owning a house has always been one of the finest ways to accumulate wealth, but not everyone has access to this chance. However, Billionaires Row has gone above and beyond, way above and beyond, basically creating a brand new asset class for luxury real estate. This is partially due to the fact that there is simply a lot more money available at that level. This is particularly due to the fact it's increased significantly, with the amount of money invested globally increasing significantly, generating what some analysts refer to as a huge pool of billionaire money. But wealth disparity has increased along with the overall rise in global wealth. The amount of money in the globe is currently controlled by a smaller group of people, and as a result, the wealth of those at the top keeps growing. What about investing some of that cash here? Well, upscale properties like those on Billionaires Row are just the place for it. And the number of really affluent people investing that much money in the built-up environment is unmatched historically. What does this all mean? Why is Billionaires Row half empty? Well, this means that you can own a unit in a building like 432 Park and rarely go there, or even never go there. You can be pretty sure that it will be secure and won't have any problems due to unforeseen public usage. You can start to control more of the factors that normally make a house a non-liquid asset when there are fewer units in the structure. However, there are numerous ways to get around the restrictions here in New York. It's all part of a plan to make money, right? How is it possible if the construction violates the zoning and regulations? Is someone not performing their duties? Here's an intriguing thing. According to the incentive zoning, the developer may disregard those air rights laws. How is that possible? If the construction violates the zoning and regulations, it's called a loophole. Here's the intriguing thing. The incentive zoning states that if in the event that the developer violates the guidelines to some extent, something else will assist the general public. With the Hudson Yards development, just to the west of Billionaires Row, New York City, they use these zoning incentives to modernize the subway, build new public parks, and enlarge the close-by Javits Center. Despite its planning, spending, and efforts, many of the units seem vacant. They're either unsold or merely vacant, which are two of the possible causes. In actuality, a sizable number of Billionaires Row residences are still up for sale. For just one example, an analysis by Serhant found that almost all of the units in its 7 buildings were unsold. That's over $6.5 billion worth of condos just sitting on the market, still without a buyer. Luxury property sales in Manhattan reached historic highs by September 2021. But the vacant flats might intrigue you more. Although they've been constructed and sold, no one, at least not continuously, resides there. They serve as secondary, tertiary, or even just a place to deposit riches. In 2017, for instance, they discovered there were 75,000 pied-à-terre homes spread throughout the city. It's a place where people just visit when they feel like it. That's an increase from just over 50,000 pied-à-terre-style homes in 2014. About 50% of mansions and condominiums were vacant, where the majority of Billionaires Row properties are situated. The owner's occupancy rate in the rest of the city is 75%. We can see from the data how Billionaires Row and the surrounding regions stack up against the rest of the city. And our last big question for today: why? Well, unless you're not a one percenter, Billionaires Row might not make sense. We now know that the reason you clicked on this video was not to hear about the U.S. tax law. However, you should know, as dull as it may sound, according to tax law, Billionaires Row appeal is actually greatly influenced by taxes. In order to encourage developers to construct residential housing, the 421A tax cut was initially adopted in New York in the 1970s. It was initially implemented because the city was worried about residents moving to the suburbs. The program now goes by the name of Affordable Housing New York. There have been requests to reconsider the city's zoning regulations and the way condos are taxed all around New York. There are taxes on vacant apartments in Paris, Vancouver, Singapore, and, of course, Toronto, just to name a few. Demonstrations have been held in Berlin and have led to protests. Their demands range from creation of additional social and inexpensive homes to a national rent freeze. The government has threatened to confiscate vacant buildings and convert them to affordable housing in Berlin and Barcelona. And we here in the U.S. once again show that what the architecture and building industries are capable of, all by Billionaires Row. And it serves as a reminder of their capacity to adapt and to change over time in order to meet the changing needs of our economies and society. Today, these towers stand alongside icons of the skyline and present a kind of history of engineering and progress. We had it with both the Empire State Building and the Chrysler Building rising at the very end of the boom years. We had it again in the original World Trade Center rising in the 1970s and standing through the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. Demand, legal loopholes, the desire of billionaires to have a view of Central Park, and the city's zoning and planning laws and loopholes there all contributed to the creation of these ultra-slender towers. They are now part of the history of the city, whether you like it or not, whether they're occupied or not, and whether they're casting a shadow to your part of the city or not. Are you into unique destinations and projects that cost too much? Well, why not check out why Norway is making a $47 billion coastal highway? Check the link in the description or the video on your screen right now. Make sure you're subscribed to Around the Amazing World for more updates and mega projects.